That's where BullyDog Technologies offers shift enhancer kits for your transmission. First thing we're going to do is throw it in this 2000 Power Stroke. We're going to get it in the air, remove the pan, and we'll show you what to do. Now, to get this install started, the first thing we're going to do is lift this truck up in the air, drain the transmission oil, and remove that pan. Now that we got the truck in the air, first thing we're going to do is take a 13mm socket and remove this drain plug. Now with a 10mm socket and ratchet, I've removed almost all the bolts around this oil pan. We're going to drop this off and take a look at the valve body. All right, with the oil pan off, we're ready to get to work. Now in the Ford, there's 3 valve bodies. We got one here, and one here. The one we want to remove is the furthest one forward, this one right here. I've already removed most of the bolts. We're going to pull this out and go over to the table and put in the shift enhancer. Now that we got the valve body out and on the table, let's open up the BullyDog box. And the first thing we're going to do is pull out the 3 springs, the rubber O-ring, and the actuator that all come from BullyDog. First thing that's very important is to take the O-ring and put it around the actuator so that we're careful and not to lose that during this installation process. Next thing, we're going to need the needle nose pliers, the pick tool, and a regular 1/4" bolt. This bolt will help aid us in the removal of the shift plug that's in the end of the valve body. Carefully screw the bolt into the shift plug and press it in slightly, which will enable you to remove the retaining clip from behind it. And then carefully wiggle the bolt, and it will help you pull out the shift plug, which will give us access to the springs that we need to remove. Now, since we removed the shift plug, take the pick tool and pull out the spring which is behind it. And all we got to do is put the BullyDog spring inside of the existing spring and replace it exactly the way we pulled it out. Simply put it in, take the shift plug, place it back in the hole, and replace the retaining clip and snap it back down in place with the needle nose pliers. Now that one of these is done, there's 3 more of these left on the valve body. Simply continue to do this on the other 2 valve bodies the exact same way by using the 1/4" bolt to pull the shift plug and placing our spring inside of the existing spring and replacing it back in place. Do this to all 3. Now that we've installed all 3 springs in the valve body, the next thing we need to do is put our actuator in place and replace the stock one with ours. This is right here next to the last one we've done, and this requires the use of the pick tool to remove this retaining clip and carefully use your pick tool to work the actuator out of the valve body, being careful not to damage any of the valve body. This sometimes may require a little bit of force, but normally comes out pretty easy. Once it's removed, you can notice the difference between ours and the stock one. Simply put ours back in the hole, making sure that the O-ring was around there and in the place correctly. And once you can see the gap and it's in the correct depth, replace the retaining clip, and you've installed the 7.3 shift enhancer. Now that that's done, let's put the valve body back in the truck, hold it in place with a couple of bolts, put all the rest of the bolts in, torque them down between 8 and 10 pounds of foot torque, and we're done.